Said will take us on PrEP in pregnancy and breastfeeding. I'll have him further introduce himself and then he take his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lovely Saturday, and my name turns out to be Friday, so I'm Friday Saidi. Yes, Friday on a Saturday. Yes. So thank you to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present. I am an obstetrician and gynecologist with University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, but I'm based in Malawi at the Global Health Institution called UNC Project, and I'm also a practicing obstetrician and gynecologist at one of the central and teaching hospitals, which is the Kamsi Central Hospital. So today I will be talking to you on PrEP in pregnancy. And this is something that we have learned over the years as these new products are actually coming in. We'll be sharing some of the experiences and the steps that a lot of stakeholders have taken to actually involve pregnant and lactating women. Can I have the next slide? Oh. All right. So as a background, women in sub-Saharan Africa who are pregnant or lactating, they actually have a higher risk of acquiring HIV during this period. We have a lot of evidence. This is just one of the systematic reviews that was done that shows that women actually face this high risk of acquiring HIV. There are so many factors that include biological issues to do with the pregnancy itself, and there are also some other behavioral issues that actually put this population at risk. So with that, there are major implications. If a woman acquires HIV during pregnancy, the risk of transmitting to the unborn baby or even during breastfeeding is very high. And they also have risk of increased lifetime morbidity and mortality. So with that, you will see that this group is actually eligible to actually access pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is among the other HIV prevention options. So today, there is another presentation that will go into detail in the PrEP modalities, but just to highlight some of the options that are available and also highlighting the options that are in the pipeline. So from this table here, we have the daily oral PrEP that have been in use, and its safety profile in pregnant and lactating population has already been proven. And we have the vaginal ring, dapivirine vaginal ring, which also has been proven in this population. And we now have the long-acting injectables. We have the long-acting cabotegravir, which is Cabla in short in some settings. And now we have lenacapavir also coming in as another option that is going to be available for this population. Another option that is currently under clinical trials is the monthly oral PrEP option, which is the MK8527, which is currently on clinical trials. The Expressive 10 is going to look into this option, and they will, just like the PEPOS trial, which looked at LEN in women, they will allow, with consent, women that will be becoming pregnant during this trial. So we will also likely going to get information about this monthly option in pregnancy in the coming years. So for this presentation, I only had 10 minutes, so I will focus mainly on the injectable cabotegravir as well as the lenacapavir options, and also share the experience that we had in Malawi. So if you look at the history of pregnancy, options or drugs during pregnancy, women have always been excluded in previous trials, and this actually resulted in us getting delayed information about pregnancy, safety in pregnancy, even the pharmacokinetic or PK information actually was delayed because pregnant women were judged to be vulnerable population, and there were issues about lack of clinical data. But that thinking actually changed over time, where advocates, stakeholders, like for example the phases group, advocated changing how we describe pregnant women from, for example, vulnerable population to actually a complex population, and actually not protecting them from research, but actually protecting them through research. So this actually is a good thing because, denying pregnant women treatment because we are not sure of the option, we can actually have issues where we deny good treatment, or we actually going to expose them to actually harmful treatment later because we don't actually have the data. So we have that dual imperative to actually, which is scientific and ethical, to generate relevant data on this population. So, sorry, I didn't move that slide. It's not moving backwards. So can you start? Yeah, that slide. So So I was talking about. Okay, so you can move from that side. I think that will be easier. So I was talking about this slide. Unfortunately, you didn't hear, but basically it's just looking at the wave of our change that has happened in the inclusion of pregnant women. Next slide. So if you look at the concerns, have always been safety. So I don't know if here right now, if you are worried about a pregnant woman being exposed to a drug, what safety endpoint are you worried about? What goes into your mind if you are thinking of a drug that goes to a pregnant woman? Probably the first thing, next click. The first thing you would think of is congenital anomalies. But if you look at it, looking at this diagram here, congenital anomalies are just a tip of the iceberg. Yes, we should be interested in congenital anomalies, but there are other outcomes of interest that we should actually be interested in. If a drug causes more preterm birth, like in Malawi, we have a higher rate of preterm birth, around 20%. If a drug that we introduce actually results in more preterm birth, that is a concern. We also have other issues to do with low birth weight babies. We have issues to do with small for gestational babies, or even maternal and infant outcomes beyond the pregnancy. All these are things that we actually need to worry about. Next slide. Things also become now complicated if you look at these outcomes: preterm birth, stillbirths, miscarriages, and even congenital anomalies. It becomes complicated in the sense that the prevalence or the background rates differ according to the different outcomes. And how they are also defined differ according to setting. So you'll find, for example, other setting miscarriage is defined as less than 20 weeks gestation. In other setting, it's defined as 28 weeks gestational age. So those differences, one in background rates, prevalence, makes even doing research involving pregnant women quite complicated, because you have to be sure of the sample size that you are looking at because of the different background rates and the outcomes that you are looking at, and be sure that you are able to look at whether there is increased risk or not. So definitely there is need to harmonize these outcomes and see how we can even compare across geographical settings. So the next slides. So the WHO has been working through the technical working group, looking at how we can harmonize some of the outcomes. So they are coming up with pregnancy outcomes, and they're defining the outcomes that if you are doing research, you should at least consider defining your outcomes. So this is just a summary of how the working group has been subdividing the outcomes into pregnancy outcomes, maternal health outcomes, as well as neonatal or infant outcomes. So these are just examples. I would encourage those that are interested to go to the WHO website, and you'll be able to see how these outcomes are defined as you are planning your protocols. Next slide. So How can we ethically involve pregnant women in clinical trials? What frameworks do we need to think of? How can we do this in a way that we actually get the data, safety data that we have? So there's a framework that was designed, also Impact as well as WHO. They came up with a framework that looks at what are the safety data points and what are the key facilitators that you need to think of as you are thinking of research involving pregnant women. So some of the data sources that you may need to think of that are highlighted in this figure are pregnancy registries. There are already existing pregnancy registries. There are other that are local registries and everything, but they give an idea of if we want to have larger samples to actually look at rare outcomes, you need things like pregnancy registries so that you'll be able to see more information about that. But they also have limitation that you may not get all the information, but you can also consider having cohort studies that actually have you can follow up a certain cohort of women and get additional safety data that you cannot get through a registry, for example. And also clinical trials. We have done clinical trials. There are clinical trials that are ongoing that are involving cisgender women and that they may also be pregnant. So clinical trials like the HPTN 084, which looked at efficacy of carboplography in women, can be a potential source of data that we can use. And the other thing is e-databases. We need to innovate in a way that we actually get electronic databases that have accurate data that at the end of the day, we are confident with the information that we are getting. And then facilitators, I talked about harmonization of outcomes and coming up with guidance and policy regulations based on the data that we obtain. Next slide. So I want to just highlight, looking at the same framework, what we have done for Malawi for carboplography as it was introduced in Malawi and how we could use this framework to come up with safety data for carb, which I think what we have learned can actually be something that can be extended to other options. Now we have lenacapavir coming in Malawi. We are thinking that this way can be a way of doing the same things for this option. So if you look at this, this is a summary of the studies that we are doing right now in Malawi on carb. So the first one that looks, there are two here. Path to Scale is a big implementation science study that is aimed at rolling out carb in Malawi, and we have a registry that we developed. I'll talk about that. And within that registry, we also have a cohort study which is looking at a specific group of pregnant women over a period during pregnancy and even up to 1 year postpartum. But the registry is just giving us data from the pregnancy and the outcome. Just say if a woman was exposed to carb, what happened to the pregnancy? Was it a live-term birth? Was it a miscarriage? Were there any congenital anomalies? Then the prospective cohort, PRIMO, is giving us additional information. We're doing plasma sample collections, breast milk collection, and we're looking at the infants as well to look at breath and growth and neurodevelopmental outcomes. We already have the HPTN study, which was done in Malawi as one of the sites and has been given us as one of the clinical trials. And Malawi now has an e-database on PrEP. And we leveraged this to introduce a pregnancy registry that uses this e-database as well. Next slide. So if you look now at these specific studies in detail, HPTN 084 is giving us additional information, and it was also done in Malawi and other countries. Right now in Rwanda, we presented data on additional outcomes, and what is reassuring is that the outcomes are similar across the exposure groups. There's been reassuring safety data in terms of even tolerability of carb during pregnancy. So the early data from 084 cohort that is involving pregnant women is reassuring in terms of carb use in pregnancy. Next slide. So the next is the Path to Scale study that I talked about. It's a registry, national registry of birth outcomes on women who become pregnant on PrEP. This is a registry that we developed, different stakeholders with support from the ministry. It's working now. It's looking at pregnant women who become pregnant while it's using either oral or CAB. And the outcomes is just looking at the pregnant outcomes based on the options that I've wrote. Right now, because it uses AI, we are able to get real-time data from the providers. So as of today, we had 1,029 women who have been exposed to the PrEP options, and majority of these women are actually on CAB, and we have outcomes in most of the women that are the next slide. So this is just highlighting the tool that is being used by the providers. If a woman is pregnant, they fill in the data, the information about where they are getting their services and all that. And then after the pregnant outcome is known, they fill out the rows below. And when they've done this information, they take a picture in those dotted lines, and that information becomes automatically changed into digital data using an app called ScanForm, and we're able to get the data that I have just shared. We will be presenting some of the findings from this for those that are attending IS or CROI. We will be sharing some of the initial experience through this. And the next slide. So the other study that I talked about is the cohort study that is also feeding into this registry. We have 621 women who are either on injectable PrEP or oral PrEP, and they are either choosing. So for this one, we want to look at additional safety data, because from HPTN 084, a good number actually did not initiate CAB during pregnancy. So this study is now looking at adverse outcomes, looking at whether there is a composite birth outcomes of miscarriage, preterm birth, small for gestational age babies, as well as miscarriages, to look at whether there is that difference between those that are exposed to oral versus CAB. In addition, we're also looking at maternal and infant adverse events. That is during the time they are breastfeeding. So the infants, we're looking at how are they growing and all that. And in addition to that, we also look at acceptability. So we are interviewing some of the women to look at why did they choose these options. And we are also interviewing the same women when they are now breastfeeding to say, are you going to change the option? And after 1 year, we are also looking at whether they are going to change the option over time. So we have rich qualitative data that we are also starting to share, and we have submitted some abstracts to CROI as well as IS, and we'll be able to share what we are learning on these pregnant women. So if you look at the figure at the end, it's just looking at how we are grouping these women on the timing of how they are being exposed to the product. Some are actually coming already on the product, which means they will conceive on PrEP. Some are starting the PrEP option. So based on that, we are actually grouping them based on who is the previous slide, who is conceiving on oral, who is conceiving on CAB, right? So it's our hope that as LEN is coming in Malawi, we may expand this group and have a LEN group, this is highlighted in red there, and do the same and look at even acceptability of the options. Now it will give us an opportunity to compare acceptability of these three options in one cohort study. And we have the protocol paper for this published. Those that are interested in looking into this study, you are free to look at it in further details. Next slide. So obviously when options come in, one thing that will come is choice. So how are we going to use evidence-based messaging to guide our pregnant mothers in terms of choice? So based on the experience that we had on oral PrEP and what we have shared, or the study that we've done on PrEP previously, we actually developed a shared decision-making tool, which we are calling the My Choice for Prevention tool. This My Choice for Prevention is actually also available on the WHO toolkit. It's using evidence-based messaging to help women with correct information about PrEP, about HIV prevention, so that when they are actually looking at which choice I want to choose, they have the actual information which is correct. So we have been piloting the My Choice tool, currently being using counselors, but our hope is to expand this into an app or even a chatbot that will actually use to guide women can actually use it on their WhatsApp and get actual information that is evidence-based choice. So right now we piloted this on oral PrEP, but the hope is that we can also do the same oral PrEP and injectable PrEP, but it's something that we can actually expand as well to include those that are actually going to be on LAN for Malawi. So this study, the primary outcome is also going to be shared at CROI 2026. So those that will attend CROI 2026, please look out for this abstract, and we will be able to share, and we hope that hopefully it will be accepted for IS as well, and we'll be able to share. But the hope is this will be translated into some digital form of either an app or a chatbot. Next slide. So I've talked about Malawi, what we have done with CAB. And before I close this presentation, I think I should also highlight what Lenacapavir experienced through the Purpose 1. I think Purpose 1 included cisgender women, and they, with consent, allowed women to actually continue being on CAB or these PrEP options when they became pregnant. This was, they led by example and allowed us to get data on PK or even outcomes, or initial outcomes of women exposed to lenacapavir during pregnancy. And this has been something that I think they've led well by example. So if you look at the information that was presented in Rwanda, there were about 500 pregnancies, and out of these, 184 were on LAN. And the outcomes are highlighted here, but I'll just highlight that those that actually completed pregnancies on the LAN group were 186, giving us a 96.4%. This was almost similar to the other groups. And just in short, the outcomes or adverse events between those that were exposed to LAN versus those that were on oral were comparable and similar, and there were no concerns even if we compare this data on outcomes to the background rates. Next slide. So what about pharmacokinetic data? They actually, because they did this, they thought about this, they were able to actually get PK data during pregnancy and also during the time of breastfeeding. And this is just summarizing the findings, but the take-home message is that LAN was found to be safe and well tolerated in the pregnancy and postpartum phase, with fewer adverse events that required discontinuation. And this actually resulted, as you read the FDA approvals for LAN, there's the top part here, it actually says that there is an increased risk of HIV transmission from the mother to child during acute HIV infection. Consideration should be given to methods to prevent HIV acquisition during, including continuing or initiating LAN during pregnancy. So FDA has already given that green light based on the initial data, which is great for LAN. So from this information, we have a Lancet correspondence that you may also look into that actually advocate for LAN in pregnancy. So we called this a 2-for-2 for LAN. Why is this a 2-for-2? LAN is given 6 monthly, so only 2 doses. Only 2 doses of LAN are enough to cover a woman during pregnancy and postpartum, and this is actually protecting both mother and infant. So if you are really serious about ending vertical transmission, maybe a 2-for-2 approach can be advocated in different countries. You can also read through this paper on Lancet. Just to conclude, there is emerging safety data for CAB and LAN in pregnancy and breastfeeding population, and this is actually reassuring. Next slide. So there is need, as this data is coming, there is need to ensure access and expand choice as more PrEP options become available to reduce vertical transmission. With new ethical guidance and supporting inclusion of pregnant and lactating women or people, ongoing surveillance remains essential to close remaining safety gaps and inform clinical practice. And this inclusion is not a risk that we should avoid, but it's an opportunity to build trust, equity, and science that serves all. Thank you so much.
great presentation. Can we give him another round of applause? Thank you, Dr. Friday, for the wonderful presentation. Dr. Friday presented on a Saturday. Okay, he spoke to us about the high HIV among pregnant and lactating people in sub-Saharan Africa, and also the different PrEP options available. He spoke on oral PrEP and injectable PrEP, and for injectable PrEP, he focused on Cabrele and then Len PrEP. I want to find out if we have any questions for him. Any comments, any question? One? Can I have a volunteer, please? Okay.
Am I the first?
Yes.
Okay. Shafiq Isaji from UNICEF. Thank you so much, Dr. Friday, for that great presentation. We talk about PrEP, and this session is dedicated to PrEP. But for the program implementers here, are there other strategies that should accompany PrEP to reduce risk for pregnant women during pregnancy? And as well as breastfeeding, and also taking a bit of a triple elimination lens on this, are there other approaches that sort of could be part of the overall approach to protect pregnant women during their HIV negative, syphilis negative, Hep B negative pregnant women? Make sure that they don't acquire these illnesses while they are pregnant and breastfeeding. By the way, tenofovir, of course, would prevent Hep B. If somebody were to, if a woman were to get contact with Hep B, tenofovir would prevent that. Of course, the long-acting formulations would not have an impact on that. So just some thoughts more broadly on prevention during pregnancy.
Will you want to take that or take the two? You want to respond to this? Okay.
All right, thank you so much. I think that's, you are really right in terms of there is need for us to think of how can we actually more be integrated. So I'll take, for example, the example that you have given about triple elimination is really key because one, for example, in Malawi, for someone to be eligible for PrEP, they might have previous or ongoing STIs. And one of the common STIs that we are seeing that these mothers on PrEP they are having is actually syphilis. So obviously making sure that as they are accessing PrEP, we need to have strategies that make sure that their syphilis, they have optimal treatment for their syphilis, and the infants who are exposed, they also have, they are seen quickly and make sure that if there's any concerns about congenital syphilis, is addressed. For hepatitis, tenofovir is also a PrEP option, and right now, what we have been advocating for Malawi, which I think the previous session we're talking about giving prophylaxis, TDF prophylaxis on Hep B positive women. But what we are now looking at is there's a room that they may stop the treatment postpartum, around 6 weeks postpartum, which if you look at the HIV prevention side, we look at, before we consider stopping someone who is Hep B positive, why don't we screen and make sure they may actually be eligible for PrEP, and they actually continue this TDF-based option postpartum, covering for the HIV prevention while at the same time treating their hepatitis B. So those are things these are issues that we are actually speaking up and seeing how we can actually advocate for such kind of strategies. But I think at the end of the day, if you are looking at helping a woman in terms of HIV prevention, syphilis, hepatitis, you're looking at how can they understand that they're at risk of any of these diseases, and what happens when they think that they're at risk? What strategies are available for them during the same period? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's take the second question. Please go ahead.
Good day. I hope you're all well. Domisila from Safed, South Africa. Thank you so much, Doc. You did good. The the research is well received, and it's actually going to help us to enhance the quality of services that we are providing to our mothers and babies. I have two questions. One, I noted from the presentation that you said you were grouping them according to the timing of starting PrEP. So now my question, from my country context in South Africa, we are having two critical problems, which is GBV that affects mental health and teenage pregnancy, more especially from 10 years to 19 years. So also looking at lecanemab, we can start at 16 years. So I wanted to know that, did you group them according to their age group? That's number one, looking at the teenage pregnancy as well, and child pregnancy. And then secondly, I noticed on the harmonization of the outcomes when I was looking at the iceberg, if I can put it like that. Then I wanted to know, with regards to GBV, did you integrate some sort of mental health? Did it have any effect on the mental health to the mother, to say, were you actually assessing mental health when we were busy with it? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for those comments. Yes, so I'll respond again. So yes, so for the cohort, the primo cohort, we have aligned to the eligibility criteria for Malawi. So the current eligibility criteria for Malawi is that women or anyone can actually access PrEP if they are 15 years and above. So we have younger women who are within the cohort, who are actually teenagers, and of course it's a prospective cohort. They have to seek assent because they are less than 18, and the parental consent, we have that arrangement as well, and we've included some in that. So at the end of the day, when we analyze the data, we can actually support, or actually, look into these groups based on age. So that will be available as well. Then on the mental health issue, thank you for raising this. We didn't put this because, like I said, I only had 10 minutes, and now I was told you can extend now. Actually, yes, we are actually screening for mental health issues during pregnancy using the validated tools, the PHQ-9 during pregnancy, and then postpartum, we have added postpartum screening as well using EPDS tool. So we have mental health data on these groups. So we actually not only just mental health data, but we're actually screening and actually make sure they have treatment during the time, whether we pick out that they are concerns about mental health during pregnancy, they are referred for care, which we follow up on how they are being treated and that. And postpartum we also have that data as well. Thank you for raising that.
Thank you, Dr. Friday. Initially, we were supposed to have 10 minutes, but because the other two speakers didn't show up, I had to give you more time. We'll quickly take the next question. Could you pass the microphone? Oh, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Charmaine Picardo, and I'm also with SAF-AIDS, but the regional office based in Harare, Zimbabwe. But my work reaches out to the 16 SADC countries, so Malawi is one of those countries. I actually got very excited about the presentation. So I just wanted to find out if this trial also involved government, or it was there was some collaboration or consultation with government. And the reason I was asking this is, at any point, did you have any costing projections for scale up? Because I know with some of the SADC countries, we do really well with trials, but when it comes to scale up, because of our budget allocations, I think less than 20% of the SADC countries have met the Abuja declaration commitment of the 15% towards health. So sometimes it becomes very difficult then to convince the government to do this. So the reason why I was asking this is because right now where we are, where we've had funding cuts, especially for government and other stakeholders that were part of related work or work that has potential intersects. and the climate issues, other priorities that our government face, how do we then take this and use it to convince them that this is critical for our PMTCT and EMTCT programs, speak the numbers, because for them, the money is what convinces them sometimes. And I think just to close, this is just as a comment, really, when you're talking about some of them dropping out of the trial at 6 weeks postpartum. And for me, I think in my own experience personally and in my work is that when you look at the support that comes on the other side, the prenatal care and what comes with postnatal care or number of visits, there's such a disconnect where there's a lot here. And then when we shift to the other side, you're coming from where you're having sometimes an interval of 1 week or 2 weeks towards a delivery. And then the flip side, you have maybe 2 visits, and that's that. Thank you.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. Yes. So you asked about whether there is a government involvement. That's a very good question. So this registry that we're talking about, yes, it was funded through partners, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, through the project, what is called the Path to Scale. This Path to Scale is a collaboration that is led by the government. So the idea and all the things that we have put in for this registry was a collaborative effort which involved government stakeholders, and I know that I've seen some of the team from the government are here. So this is right now, it has been integrated within the National PrEP M&E tools. So this PrEP in pregnancy is a government tool. So, and we are leveraging staff that are government staff that are using the data and generating the data. So it's, yes, there are concerns of sustainability, but what we think is when new products are coming, especially for pregnancy, you may actually do not need to expand this kind of registry, the whole nation. You just need to have sites where they are high volume, have it, you get the information that is going directly to the government, because this is, even the portal that I shared, that it is 1,029, it's a government portal. But we will actually seek access to the government database. So everything is within the government system, or that also looking at how can we sustain this beyond the current project. But in addition to that, we have a prospective cohort that is a study that is now looking at intensive safety outcomes and everything. That is separate, but those outcomes are also being fed to the government registry. But we have additional things that we are doing, and we are also doing interviews to the women and everything. And then just to clarify about dropout, I think we are not seeing dropout at 6 weeks. I think it was about responding to his questions about postpartum care in some of the things. But we are not seeing right now dropout, at least for the prospective cohort. But for the registry, we do know that we are leveraging people who are also busy with other things. The only way we have done it is to get information during pregnancy and when the outcome is available, and that's it. We are not going beyond that because we know that it's so complicated. If you are to now say providers who are on the ground, can you continue get the information? So that's how we are doing this approach.
Thank you. Can we give Dr. Friday another round of applause? Thank you so very much. Do we have further questions, comments on his presentation? Two of our speakers, like I said, didn't show up, and this gives us an opportunity to still talk about our experiences, PrEP experiences from our work. I don't know if one or two people want to share on what they have from their country.
Thank you.
Have a question, ma'am?
Mine is a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Friday. My name is Batsi Makonike Chikunya. I'm from Zimbabwe. My question is really around the follow-up on Primo as well. You indicated that you would follow up. I didn't get for how long. Did you say 52 weeks?
1 year.
Yeah, for 1 year. So my question is, when you continue to follow them up, the woman may feel after pregnancy that she's no longer at risk and stop taking the 6 monthly, So are you continuing to follow them up even when they are no longer having the LEN injections and continuing to do all that work? And wondering also whether there are people who are dropping out. In Zimbabwe, it's very common for a woman to move to her parents' home to deliver a baby. And once the baby is delivered, she goes back to the husband, which may be in a very different area, and wondering how we are dealing with something like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will answer, I think you have touched two things. The first thing about Primo, yes, we are following up. So for any woman who is enrolled in Primo study and they don't want to continue the PrEP option, but they are still interested in the follow-up, we are following them up to 1 year postpartum, looking at even just checking HIV test and looking at the baby. If you remember, these PrEP options, they have a tail. So if someone gets CAB, there is a tail that goes for months and months. So you'll still, even if they stop, you still want to see what happens to them even beyond the time they've stopped. So for Primo, as long as they are willing to be following up, since it's a prospective cohort, we are following up. And the other thing that we are doing, we have the oral group. We know that oral PrEP there have been issues with adherence. So we are taking dried blood spots just to check the concentration of Truvada in the oral group. This will give us information on whether these women were actually coming to the hospitals and taking the actual oral PrEP. And we're also doing the same plasma concentrations, plasma samples for those that are on CAB as well. So that is the follow-up period. And then for the dropouts, yes, we have dropouts, especially mainly in the the registry, the sites. We have 36 sites that are doing this. We have been having challenges in getting some of the outcomes, but what has been reassuring to us is that actually we are getting a majority of these outcomes. We have the data. So that is, we know that we're using a passive approach with a government system that is also busy with other things. Those are expected. But right now, as the data is looking, we have more than 500 plus outcomes that we can even the ministry can look at the type of outcomes that we're getting. So that's reassuring. But dropouts are really happening, especially for the registry. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Friday. We have 10 more minutes. We'll just take a few more contributions. Let's hear from you, please.
Thank you again. It's great that we have the opportunity to grill you some more on this very important work that you're doing, Dr. Friday. I may have missed this, but do you do partner testing as part of the protocol? Because, clearly a lot of women might be acquiring HIV or indeed these other STIs that we're trying to prevent in triple elimination from regular partners who do not know their status for HIV, for syphilis, and for Hep B. So would it be, yes, is that something that you are thinking about as part of the protocol and to help sharpen maybe or target how you might be reinforcing PrEP messaging, following up women who are receiving PrEP, knowing that they might be especially at risk because their partner is infected?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. Yes, one of the eligibility criteria for PrEP in Malawi is the partner, a serodifferent relationship, right? So if someone is living with HIV and the partner, we don't know their viral load or they are just newly diagnosed, the partner is eligible for PrEP. So we have had in this cohort women in serodifferent relationship because the ministry is already encouraging partner involvement within the antenatal care setting. So this is already been done. So once there is that serodifference, these are the clients that we also enroll. So yes, testing is being done and is actually actually giving us information on potential clients that are eligible for the study. And those that are living with HIV, they are linked to care as well. And we, just to add on partner, we have one of our fellows who has had a fellowship just to interview partners on women on PrEP. So she actually, those that are actually disclose PrEP use. So she's actually doing some qualitative data to look at what kind of support, male partner support, that is coming for this cohort, and we will learn from your work as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Friday. I am Ukoko Slungi Mtambo. I'm from Safeits in South Africa. For me, I'm a very community-based person, and I'm from a deep rural area. I work with rural women most of the time. So my question is, do you consider or do you work with communities where these pregnant women and breastfeeding women comes from to prepare the community, to make sure that the community is capacitated on PrEP so that women can be able to make an informed choices without any fear of being abused or whatsoever?
Yes, thank you so much for the comment or question there. So yes, before even the injectable PrEP was introduced, we have community-based organization who are working closely with our National AIDS Commission. I see that our CEO is also here from Malawi. So there was that community sensitization that happened within the community just to prepare people about PrEP. When we didn't have enough supplies, we initially didn't do much of demand creation, but we focused on just educating women about the PrEP options and everything like that. So yes, there was some community, and even within this prospective cohort, we have a community advisory board that actually we always get insights from them, update them about the study, and they reach out to the communities addressing any misconception that we might that might actually arise around PrEP.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Friday, for sharing your great experience from your work in Malawi. We have just 5 minutes to the end of this session, and we can only take one more contribution. Go ahead, please. Do you have the microphone? Please pass it to him.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is around my choice study, the one that talks about shared decision-making and pro-choice agenda, which is a wonderful study altogether that you're about to embark on. My question is around what are the processes involved and what are the safety measures to safeguard the end users' data privacy, and making sure at the same time you are giving them health information that they need without necessarily trampling upon their confidentiality, privacy, and also those kind of protections. Thank you. Over.
All right. Thank you. So for my choice, the tool was based on evidence that we looked at. PrEP in pregnancy, what we saw, what were the issues that we were seeing when PrEP was being introduced in Malawi, particularly oral PrEP. So we had looked at what are the gaps, what are the misconceptions, what are the messages, how do pregnant women understand what PrEP is. I'll give you an example of what we learned when we were doing our initial studies. Some women were initiated on PrEP, accepting to be on PrEP, because they thought PrEP was treatment for their ongoing STI. So if a woman was having syphilis, they thought PrEP was actually treating the syphilis. So when the symptoms, obviously, of an STI resolve, obviously PrEP use will not be the same. So to address those things, we came up with an evidence-based, counselor-led tool, which is called the My Choice for HIV Prevention. Right now it's counselor-led because we want to protect, to make sure that we give the information and we get to see what the clients get. So with that, what I'm just showing now is the piloting of that tool. Once we've learned from the users, we've learned from the people who have used it, the information that we are getting from there. The long-term goal is to have the information here now available as possible message that we can give. We know that this is message based on evidence. So right now, in terms of safety or confidentiality, there are no concerns because we were doing these things in clinic and making sure there's privacy and confidentiality. But we'll also look, as we are expanding maybe to digital tools, we'll also ensure that there is those considerations when that time comes. But for now, we haven't gone to that. But it's a long-term goal.
Because of our time, we'll have to stop here. Dr. Friday will be in the corner in case we have additional questions that we want him to address. We'll just close this session so that we can start the next session. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Can we appreciate him again?